So the whole point of this webinar is how ASI can help small businesses meet food safety goals. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're small. And Stacy,
Do you have like an extra desk phone?
Stacy, I'm going to go ahead and mute you.
I just kind of was thinking just how the corner out there, I've been working out there.
Okay, that looks like that worked. So it's how ASI food safety can help small businesses meet food safety goals. That's not necessarily that any of you work for a small business. We cater to small, medium, and large people in the industry, whether you manufacture, process, make packaging material, cold storage, distribution, or retail. We got everything covered, basically from farm to fork. We've worked with organizations that vary in size, to multi-site facilities down to little mom and pop facilities. It looks like we've got somebody else joining. Hi, David, you've entered the meeting room. Just doing a little bit of an introduction here. My name is Kim Sabatca. I am the Director of Business Development at ASI Food Safety. I've been with ASI for, it'll be 18 years in March, work in many different positions here. But my whole goal is to work with any client, whether small, medium, or large, and help them from zero compliance through GMP compliance all the way up to SQF compliance if that's where it's dictated. So I will be presenting this short PowerPoint today. I ask that everybody hold their questions until the end. We will have like a 5 or 6 minute question and answer. I'm going to be covering quite a bit of material. The PowerPoint itself is short, but you can plan on me talking for at least the next 20 minutes. Okay, next, the agenda, the company introduction, ASI, what our services are, the different service options that are available to clients of ours, how much it costs, and then finally, question and answer. Again, my name's Kim, and I'll be doing your presentation today. The whole goal of ASI is to work hard to make certification easy for our customers. And if there's one person on here that's muted, and I think that we do a good job helping them, hopefully making their certification process just a little bit easier. But ASI is an accredited certification body. We've been in business for the last 75 years. It went from a 4th generation owned company to now 1st generation of a different family owned company. Sheree Williams is our CEO, and Tyler Williams, the organizer of this event, is our Chief Technical Officer. We've got different divisions here within ASI. We've got the accredited division, which is like the SQF audit activity, the Gfsi audits that you may or may not have heard of. We have a consulting division that does many different things, from mock audits to gap analysis to HACCP program write-up and implementation. We do offer accredited training through our online portal, Litmos. In the food industry, if you haven't already done so, as you move through the process, somebody from your organization will need to have formal HACCP training. The HACCP training that we offer online, 100% online, is accredited through the International HACCP Alliance down in College Station, Texas. So it is the full 16-hour course. We also offer online internal audit training, and finally, on-site HACCP training or PCQI training. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the PCQI in a minute, but I don't want to have you confuse us with the FDA. The PCQI requirement is an FDA requirement. In the food industry, we are still following that HACCP training is the requirement. So although we align with the FDA on the Code of Federal Regulations, the PCQI training is only offered on site at your organization, And that satisfies the FDA requirement that each site registered with the FDA will have a PCQI person on site. From the base level audit that many companies start with is called the Cgmp audit. And what that stands for is current good manufacturing practices. We have different audit criteria. If you process food, if you make packaging material for the food industry, if you're a warehouse and distribution organization, dietary supplement, and many more. We basically took the FDA's Code of Federal Regulations, for good manufacturing practices in the food industry, which is CFR 117, and then dietary supplements CFR 111. And we created our third-party GMP standards based on those Code of Federal Regulations. So a lot of times when you're a small organization and you have the opportunity to start supplying to somebody in the retail space or Walmart or Sprouts Farmer Market or somebody like that, a lot of times they will allow you to start with what's called the Cgmp audit. That is a baseline audit. It meets US regulatory compliance. But it's not an accredited audit like one of the global audits in this last column. You may or may not have heard of GFSI audits. GFSI stands for the Global Food Safety Initiative. That is an organization that got together and created criteria that states if you meet that specific criteria, then you will be able to get certified under one of those global audits. The difference between GMP and GFSI is GMP audits are only good in the United States. Some facilities in Canada and some facilities in Mexico. GFSI audits are global level audits, so those are accepted everywhere. And the GFSI audits that are done here in North America would be the same audit that would be done, say, over in China. So they're global level of compliance. So with our different divisions, consulting, training, GMP, and GFSI audit, our newest division is the cannabis division. I don't believe anybody on here comes from the cannabis space, but we do have a cannabis division as well that we do training, consulting, and auditing too. A lot of companies, the first thing that they ask is, where do I start? So what we're going to talk about is the starting point and the foundation for all food safety audits. The foundation for all food safety audits is what's called the HACCP program. A well-written HACCP program is the foundation for all levels of food safety that we just talked about. And there is a step-by-step approach that everybody goes through that creates a HACCP program. So step one, HACCP program. What does HACCP stand for? It's Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. A HACCP program is complete with policies, procedures, and forms. Many of you have heard of prerequisite programs. Stephen, I know that your group down there has heard of that. Prerequisite programs are things like cleaning and sanitation of the building, how employees are, how they're handling the product at the organization, training programs, pest control. All of those are prerequisite programs and are part of the HACCP program as a whole. And then in addition to the HACCP program as a whole, it includes GMPs, and that would be things like personal hygiene, where everyone comes to work wearing clean clothes, nobody's wearing jewelry. They don't come into work sick, where they could potentially contaminate the food or food items that are in your site. Maintenance of the building, making sure there's no overgrown grass outside where pests can get close to the building and potentially get into the building, that the maintenance of the building outside is free from litter, and then sanitation processes of the equipment. So some of you may manufacture packaging materials, and some of you may get finished product in and literally bring product in and send product out as a distribution center. But you still have to follow cleaning and sanitation regardless of where you're at in the scope, whether you process, make packaging materials, package product, or distribute. Obviously, you know, the idea is to have everybody from raw materials through retail space, whatever that is, whether that's online or directly to the customer, is to make sure that everybody's operating under at least basic food safety policies to ensure that when it gets to the consumer, there's no chance of them getting sick because of something that you haven't done or something that one of the people at your organization have not done. So when I talk about HACCP, GMPs, and prerequisite programs, they all intermingle with each other. In the HACCP world, you have to document. If you have a policy, you have to document and prove that you're doing something or not doing something. It's all about documenting it. And if it's not documented, then when you get to your audit, then it's basically, you can have a HACCP program in place, but if you're not following through with the formal documentation, then it basically doesn't exist. So even if you're doing it, if you're not documenting, that's a problem. So step one is determining that you do need a HACCP program in order to move forward with a GMP or GFSI level audit. There are different ways to get there, and we're going to discuss that a little bit on the next slide when I get to options. But let me go through theoretically what happens to get you ready for an audit. And again, it makes logical sense to start, if you're starting from ground zero, get your HACCP program in place, go GMP certification, and then GFSI, because it all builds on each other. And this initial step of your HACCP program is the foundation. Once your HACCP program, policies, procedures, forms, GMPs, prerequisite programs, once all of that is written, it needs to be implemented. It's not going to do any good if you take the time to do it or if you hire a company to do it, to create a HACCP program and then set the binder on a shelf somewhere. Within that HACCP program, as I stated, there's policies, procedures, and forms that need to be implemented. And those are things like keeping a training log when you're training people at new hire and then maybe every 6 months on a GMP topic. Filling out glass and brittle plastic breakage form if there's an incident, particularly if it's in the manufacturing sector. You know, obviously glass and brittle plastics is a problem if something gets broken. You know, the daily cleaning schedule, that form gets documented and filed away. So basically, once the HACCP program's been established, it needs to be implemented. And you implement it by knowing what that policy says and then filling out the form to support it. Forms get filled out sometimes on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and a yearly basis. It's all about risk. So if a professional writes your HACCP program for you, they're going to base all of your forms and frequencies on the risk of the product. If you do it, it's going to kind of be trial and error. I'm going to tell you the tools that you're going to need to do it yourself, because obviously everything has a price tag. But again, I talk about the different options that you have every step of the way on my next slide. Right now, I'm just going through basically getting the HACCP program established, you know, getting it implemented, and then you start building forms. And again, based on risk of the product, the forms, some need to be done on a daily basis, like sanitation, weekly or bi-weekly, such as a pest control. Some of you may do your own pest control. Some may hire an external company to do your pest control. But if they are registered as a food grade pest control company, they know that their visit has to be documented. They know that if there is a live rodent found in any of the traps, that's documented. You know, they check all of the traps, they make sure they're in good repair, and it's all about mitigating risk to the product. Again, regardless of what your sector is, It's mitigating all of the risks that could potentially contaminate the product. So record building. Record building, a lot of times companies say, okay, well, I heard I need 6 months worth of records, or I need 5 months worth of records, or I need a year worth of records. For the baseline Cgmp audit, once your HACCP program is in place and it's been implemented like we see in steps 2 and 3, then it's a matter of setting a pattern. So I never tell a client that you have to have 90 days or 120 days or 180 days of records. The auditor is going to look for a pattern. If you are manufacturing cookies one Monday a month, it's going to take you a month of Sundays to build records. If you are getting product in and out on a daily basis like a distribution company would, you're going to build those records a lot faster. And because some of them are done daily and some are done weekly and some are done monthly, what I recommend is, especially for those where a customer says, we need, in order to buy your product, we need you to get GMP certified. You can theoretically be audit ready in 40, 50, 55 days. Again, it's all based on how often you're manufacturing or moving product, how often your pest control company's coming, how often you're doing internal training. So theoretically, for a GMP level audit, from the time your HACCP program is implemented to the audit, I'm comfortable saying, absolutely at 60 days. That time can be chopped off there based on the frequency of your manufacturing. But typically 60 days later is what we want to see, because at that point, we are going to see that you are keeping that pattern of documentation. Probably 70% of a GMP audit has to do with the documentation and making sure that you're mitigating risk that way. The rest of it is facility related. Obviously, we want to see facilities that are in good repair, no leaks, no cracks in the floor where water can pool and listeria can grow, no holes go into the external of the building that, those little mice can fit through some awful teeny tiny spaces. So yes, we do look at the structure of the building and make sure that there's nothing that's posing a risk to the product that's inside. But the majority of the audit is making sure that you are doing your record keeping, and that somebody on site, preferably a team of people, even if that team is 2 or 3 people, have enough knowledge of this risk minimizer process that they're able to help, and it doesn't all fall on one person's shoulders. Now, when you're ready for the audit, this is where step 5 and step 6 come in. I threw step 5 in there because I can tell you that about 80% of our people will go through a mock audit first. The way the GMP audits work is you must score a 70% or above out of the gate in order to get a certificate that's valid for 1 year. The whole goal is for you to get that certificate, right? To give to your customers, to post on your website for marketing, showing that your product is GMP certified. So you have the option of having a mock audit, and that's where an auditor comes in and goes through every requirement on the audit checklist and says, this complies, this doesn't. And if it doesn't comply, he tells you how to fix it. It is 100% optional. It is not mandatory. There is a fee for it, although it's just a tiny bit higher than the cost of the audit itself. And it's kind of like a safety net. It can hopefully prevent you from scoring below that 70% threshold. And then you're going to have to go through another audit anyway if you're needing to get certified. So I throw that in there as step 5, because when you've got your 40 to 60 days worth of records, that's the time to schedule the mock audit. And that would be probably done 2 weeks before you're scored on it. And all it is a safety net. It allows you time to fix any of those things that you may have overlooked while you were preparing before you go to scored audit. 95% of our GMP audits are 1-day audit. It is based on size. Our threshold is 200 to 250,000 square foot. Those sites that are smaller than 200 or 250,000 square foot are done in one day. If it's larger than that, just by the mere size of it and because they do a facility walkthrough, it would be a multi-day audit, but most of our audits are one day, and it's based on, complexity and size of the building. And as I stated a minute ago, you must score above a 70% in order to get a certificate that's valid for 1 year. So, so here we are, where, we talked about all the services that ASI offers. Where do we start? I can tell you that a HACCP plan is the foundation for any direction that you're going to move in the future. HACCP is recognized around the world. It was created back before we started sending people to space, because they had to figure out how to keep food safe when it went into outer space. That's how this was created. A HACCP program is the foundation for all food safety audits. Now, here is where I want to talk about options, because this is where it matters when you're a small organization. Obviously, if you're a small organization and you've never had a GMP audit and you have to start with the HACCP program, quite literally, that is the, in terms of days, the longest consulting, one of the longest consulting pieces that we do. With ASI, you have the option of ASI writing your HACCP GMP prerequisite program that includes policies, procedures, or forms. So, obviously, that's what we do. We have a whole set of people that do that. They go around and they literally take you from where you're at right now to audit ready. And then all you're doing is waiting for that 40 days. What I can tell you is that if for us to do that complete package, it is $7,500. That's a lot of money, especially when you haven't gotten that big business that's requiring you to get this. Another path that you could take, and a logical path, especially for a small company, is if you look down here at the bottom of the box, is for at least one person to attend HACCP training. During HACCP training, you are going to learn how to build a HACCP program, and you're going to have that as an exercise during the HACCP course. It is 100% online. It's $399. And you hopefully will have an understanding of what needs to be done. Now, that's not to say that you can't call ASI and talk to, myself or one of my counterparts. I mean, we are here to support the client. It's not all about the sale. As a consumer, I want my product safe. So there's options, but alternatively to us writing it, call and talk this through with myself or somebody else. You attend the HACCP program, then you have the option of purchasing our HACCP template. So instead of us filling it out for you, all of the policies, procedures, and forms, we give you that tool and you fill it out after you've had the HACCP training. So you're still going to be new. It's still going to be like a toddler taking baby steps, but we're going to give you the tools that you need, and that's for about half the cost. Then it's up to you and your team to complete the HACCP template. And when I say team, again, I'm hoping 2 or 3 individuals. There is something called a HACCP coordinator, and that's the person in charge of making sure that the policies, procedures, and forms get put in place and are implemented. But that would almost be a full-time job in itself. So one of the pieces of writing a HACCP program is to create a team. And it can be a diverse team, because let's face it, if I write something and it's wrong and I look at it the next 600 times, I might not realize it's wrong. So by having a diverse group of people with different roles within your organization, a lot of times it's like bouncing ideas off each other, and you may learn something from that admin person or from the picker of product in a warehouse. So they don't all have to have formal training, but they work under the direction of the HACCP coordinator. So when we're talking HACCP program, ASI can do it, or for half the cost, you can go through the training, purchase the template, and complete it yourself. Then as part of that, remember that implementation stage. If it's not implemented, then it doesn't do you any good. If we write it, we want to come help you implement it. And that's where we sit down and say, okay, Stacy, you're going to fill out this form on a daily basis. And David, you're going to fill out this form on a weekly basis. And Stephen, you're going to fill out this form on a monthly basis. And as the HACCP coordinator, or the HACCP expert, we're going to tell each of your team members what they're going to do and when, and that's how you're going to build that documentation. Now, obviously, if you didn't have us write it, then we aren't going to come implement it. You're going to implement it. And then members of your team are going to do the self-assessment for the audit. So it's all about having options and what the cost is. If we implement it, it's $3,000 and we're going to spend 2 days on site. If you implement it, it's going to cost your company your time. Now, the only thing that I will say is if you write your HACCP program and you implement it and you're new to the industry or to HACCP, and obviously many of you are new to it, then what I recommend is once you implement the program, defer back to that previous slide and get a mock audit. Again, we don't know what we don't know. And if we haven't done something that we needed to do, we're not going to know until it's time for the audit. And every question is weighted within that audit. So, there's criticals, majors, and minors. If you're missing something important like an allergen program, that can be a critical violation. And with that one piece, you're automatically down to a 75% because that's worth 25 points. So, as you're going through here and you're taking one of these options to save your company money, and I totally understand, then I would say to you, please invest in that mock audit to catch anything before you go to the scored audit. And then finally, once it's implemented, it's scored, and the audit is what it is. Again, it's typically 1 day. The cost of the audit is $1,400. And then whatever the travel expense of the auditor is, we've got auditors all across the United States and Canada. I know one of our guests on our call is out of Springfield, Missouri. We've got, auditors in the Kansas City area and the St. Louis area. So we're, chances are we've got somebody in your state. But again, I want to encourage you. And on the last slide, on the question and answer, then, there's going to be a phone number, and I'm going to give you the names of people to call here, to talk to us and let us tell you what options that you have for your specific manufacturing or distribution center, and let us streamline the process for you. That doesn't mean that you're going to hire us to write your HACCP program, but we can tell you the steps to streamline that process for you and save you some money in the interim. Okay, so why should I get GMP certified? Number one reason that most of our clients come to us is somebody that they're selling to said, well, show me your GMP audit or show me that you're in that process. That is number one. So it's a requirement. So the price ranges can be as much as, if ASI does the work, $6,000 to $9,000. And if it's a large account, then it's worth it because we can have you ready for your audit in 50 days. Option 2 is your site does the work and you go through the training. That's going to cost somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000. Option 3, if we implement it, as I told you, that's another $3,000. If your site implements, it's $0. And option 4 is the audit. GMP audits are an investment, not only for potential customers, but also as marketing. You're going to be able to put GMP certified on every email you send, on your website, and that way anybody looking for a distribution center that's GMP certified, if they Google GMP certified site, I know one of you that it's on this call today, your site's going to come up. So it can be used as a marketing tool. 100% of the time, if there is somebody in the industry that wants a GMP certified site, you will get the business over somebody that does not have it, because everybody knows what that means and what rules you're following to operate under GMP conditions. So it is an investment. It can cost, it can be relatively inexpensive, or you can go full bore. It's all on your timeline, and obviously, costs, whether that can be afforded or not. I can tell you that at ASI, if you buy a service that's over $3,000, we split the billing up so that there's no large one bill at one time. And basically that is how we help small companies get GMP certified. And going to that next level of GFSI, we do have competency to do that, but that's a whole nother story for another day. And if you don't have your HACCP program in place, to go from no HACCP program to SQF certification, that would be a little bit more difficult, certainly more time consuming, and certainly more costly. So here we are, questions and answers. Who's going to be brave enough to ask a question? Tyler, David, Stacy, Steven, somebody?
Give me just a second, Kim. I'm outside.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Excellent, Tyler. Thank you.
Well, I guess if anything, I can see if I can get things started here. Maybe it's more of a comment. I'm not sure about everybody on this call right now, but we've worked with ASI since I started. I've been at my company now for working on my 9th year, and we've had either a audit or a mock audit every year since I've been out here, and it's always good information that we've always gotten back from the auditors on definitely on ways to improve. Initially, when I first got into the role that I was in, when I hear the word auditor, I tend to freak out. But you can definitely tell that the auditors that come in, they want to see the place improve, and that's something, if anything, that I've been really appreciative with ASI is, it's not a gotcha. It's a, okay, we see something here. What can we do to improve on it or fix it and get onto the right track? So that's something I've always appreciated.
Stephen, I appreciate that comment, and you brought up something that that you prompted me to reiterate on something. At a GMP level, ASI likes to consider ourselves as educators. We're not in there to cut anybody off at the knees. We don't want to fail anybody, and it is all about continuous improvement. Out of the gate, if you score a 72%, obviously we want to see you do a little bit better. And as Stephen reiterated, our auditor is going to say, okay, why don't you do it this way? I'm going to give you a minor nonconformance. I don't want to see this next time I come in. If I do, you're going to get another minor and the point deduction. If you get a 72% this year, you're going to get certified, okay? We want to see a 74% next year. You don't have to come out of the gate being at 100%. Very few sites are. And those that do get 100%, then I'm like, okay, let me go in there because I bet I can find a candy wrapper somewhere, or a piece of paper floating on the floor, or a water bottle somewhere where it's not supposed to be. So to Steve's point, we are educators. We want you to do good. We don't want to fail you. And it's all about making the food supply chain safe. So thank you, Stephen, for reminding me of that. Tyler, are you inside yet?
Yes, I am. I apologize. I was busy schedule today and really wanted to squeeze this in for sure. So background, this is the second company I've been with where ASI has been utilized. Always a top-notch service. And I think, and I'm actually partnered with Stephen. So I think one thing we continuously challenge ourselves is continual training. And I have met yourself and Andrew and great group of people. And these are things that I think that we will start reaching out to you guys as a resource. Is options out there is continuous training. So I know you guys attend multiple different conferences.
Yep.
Platforms online and utilize you guys in that direction too. This, to Stephen's credit, we meet weekly, our food safety team. Bi-week,
Nice.
we just extended out to bi-weekly. We record it, the documentation side of and record keeping that we do here in Springfield is just as good as I've seen, and that is one due to your training for Steven. So
Yay.
always a thank you. Yes, always a thank you. Always have enjoyed partnering with you as a third party to handle our food safety stuff. So
Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate that. And we appreciate you guys too. And yeah, you guys give me a call, you know, after the webinar, and we can talk about a lot of exciting stuff. And with you guys having so many buildings down there, potentially, you know, there would be, you know, a great opportunity to do some on-site stuff for you as well, to train a bunch of people instead of paying for one person at a time. So, okay, so what else? David, Stacy, anything? Okay, well, thank you all very much for attending. I enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. This webinar will be up on the ASI YouTube channel if you want to refer back. Our website is www.asifood.com. My name is Kim and my counterpart is Andrew Wood, so feel free to reach out to us and we can give you the different options to help you go down that food safety path and what path is right for you. So again, thank you everybody for coming and for your participation, and I hope you have a great rest of day.